Okay, y'all. We're skipping over a couple, and we're going to 7.8. In 7.5, we compared factors and products. And we're going to do that again, but this time our factors and products are going to be mixed numbers. Okay, so we're going to compare mixed number factors and products. So again, the big question is, how does the size of a product compare to the size of factors that are greater than 1? Okay, so this is going to be a lot of looking back and forth at the numbers and what they're being multiplied by. So remember these vocabulary words. Factor are the numbers being multiplied. Product is the answer to that multiplication problem. And then you have greater than, less than, or equal to. Okay? So these are the kind of questions you're going to get. Compare the product to the given factor. Remember that the given factor means the factor they give you, the factor they point out. Okay? So 1 times 1 1/4. Will the product be greater than, less than, or equal to 1 1/4? And why? So here your answers are going to be more like sentences. Don't groan. When you understand the math, you're able to explain it in sentences. We've been practicing that all year long. Okay, 1 times 1 1/4. Will the product be greater than, less than, or equal to 1 1/4? So I'm looking at 1 1/4, and then I have to think, what is it being multiplied by? Okay, determine which factor you are comparing the product to. So the product, which again, I don't know, all I know is it's going to be greater than or equal to 1 1/4. This factor is being multiplied by 1. Determine which factor you are comparing the product to. I'm comparing it to this. Is the other factor greater than, less than, or equal to 1? It's equal to 1. So will the product be greater than, less than, or equal to 1 1/4? It will be equal to. Why? The product will be equal to 1 1/4 because it is being multiplied by 1, right? Anything times 1 is itself. All right, try this. Will the product be greater than, less than, or equal to 1 1/4? Again, okay, so now we have 1 1/4. We're comparing it to the given factor. They're telling us 1 1/4. We have to compare that to whatever the other factor is. Now we're multiplying 1 1/4 times 1/2. So is this factor being multiplied by something greater than, less than, or equal to 1? Anything times 1 is itself. Anything times less than 1 will be less than itself, right? So the product will be less than, or less than 1 1/4 because it is being multiplied by a number less than 1. That's why. What about this? Oh, geez, and I'm still multiplying by 1 1/4, but this time I'm multiplying 1 1/2 by 1 1/4. Will the product be greater than, less than, or equal to 1 1/4? Again, we're comparing to 1 1/4. Okay, you've got 1 1/4. What is it being multiplied by? It's being multiplied by 1 1/2. Is it being multiplied by something bigger than 1? Yes. So if a number is being multiplied by something bigger than 1, then the product will be bigger than itself, than this. Okay? So this time, the product will be greater than 1 1/4 because it is being multiplied by a number greater than 1. Gosh, I hope this makes sense to you. Now we're really going to have it hit the fan. Let's go. We got this. All right, now you're going to complete the sentence, okay? You're going to complete it with an equals, a greater than, or a less than. I'm trying to simplify it a little bit for you. So if you have 5/6 times 2 1/5, it says 5/6 times 2 1/5 will be blank 2 1/5. 5/6 times 2 1/5 will be equal to 2 1/5, will be greater than 2 1/5, or will be less than 2 1/5. Well, let's see. 2 1/5 is being multiplied by 5/6. Is 5/6 1? Is it less than 1? Is it greater than 1? 5/6 is less than 1. So 5/6 times 2 1/5 will be less than 2 1/5 because I'm multiplying 2 1/5 times a number less than 1. Okay, how about this one? 4 2/5 times 1 1/2 will be equal to 1 1/2, greater than 1 1/2, or less than 1 1/2. I have 1 1/2 times a number that is 1 1/2 times a number that is greater than, equal to, or less than 1. It's definitely greater than 1. It's 4. It's more than 4. So that means the product 4 2/5 times 1 1/2 will be greater than 1 1/2, like a lot greater than 4 2/5 times greater. Okay. 2 3/8 times 4 9 will be blank 2 3/8. 2 3/8, that's what we're comparing. Will 2 3/8 be times 4 9 be greater than 2 3/8, less than 2 3/8, or equal to 2 3/8? Well, I'm multiplying 2 3/8 times 4 9. 4 9 is a number less than 1. So 2 3/8 times 4 9 will be less than 2 3/8 because you're multiplying it by a number that is less than 1. Think you can handle that. Just pay attention to what you're comparing it to, and you should be fine.